Animations can involve multiple sprites. So in this animation, we're going to first load up the car animation, and then we're going to put some smoke behind the car. So let's use our convertible. Okay, and then for the smoke, we'll go ahead and go into paint. And what we're going to do is we're just going to create some dots. So I'm going to start with a dot there, and then I'm going to duplicate, and then I'm going to change my color. So we'll go red next, and I'll draw another dot that's a little bit bigger. We'll duplicate that, and then let's change our fill to, maybe we'll do a green. So we'll draw green dot next, and we'll duplicate that, and let's go there we go. That's enough of a contrast. Okay, so we've got our dots here. Okay, now for the dots, those are way too big, so we'll want to scale those down. We can play around with the scaling so we get something that looks about right. Okay, so there's our dots, there's our convertible. Okay, and when we're in costume for the dots, we can also say, like, for instance, I want to start with first costume, or we can do that in the code as well. And then we'll grab him and let's move him over towards the edge of the screen. We can even go off the screen. You can play around with that as well. So when we animate multiple images or multiple sprites, we want to make sure that they're starting at the same time. So I'm going to go on the dots and say when the space bar is pressed. I'll go on the convertible and say when the space bar is pressed. Okay, so we have the same starting event for both of those. I have each of those positioned. So, and actually, before we do that, another way to keep things in sync is we're going to need some variables. When I make variables, normally the default is for all sprites. We definitely want to do that here because we want the variables to basically work across both of the sprites. So to adjust how long we wait, so the speed of the animation, we'll create a variable called wait time. We're going to do two loops. So we'll do an inner repeat loop that we want to be able to control. And we also are going to do an outer repeat loop that we want to be able to control with a variable. And then we're only going to go left or right, so we're just going to call this variable x steps. We could also do xval that we've done in some of the other videos, but this should work. Okay. Now we just need to pick one or the other variable of the sprites to start the variables out. So I'm going to use the convertible, and I'm going to go ahead and set my inner loop, my outer loop, the number of repeats I'm going to do. I'll set my x steps. So how many steps do I want to make for each time through the loop? And then I'm also going to set my wait time in here. So we'll go ahead and set some values for these. So I'll do 0.15, and we'll do 17 for the inner repeat. We'll do 5 for the outer repeat. And x steps, let's do 5 for that. And again, you can play around with those numbers, and the nice thing is once you get everything set up, you can adjust it the way that you want to. Okay, for events, and we're going to have to do this for both sprites. Actually, for control, we're going to want to do 2 repeat loops. So we'll want to do the outer repeat loop, we'll want to do the inner repeat loop, and then inside of the the inner repeat loop, we're going to need to change the x by, and then instead of 10, we're going to do x steps. Okay, and then also we are going to want to wait for however long we determine that we're going to wait. Okay, and this part we're going to do in both the pieces of code. Okay, now when we do our outer loop, we're going to move across the screen. We're going to need to come back to the beginning as well. So let's assume this is our starting position. So if that's our starting position, we're going to say, after I do the inner loop, after I move across the screen, I want to start back and do it again. So I'm going to go back to the same starting position. Okay, so we've got that all set. So all we need to do is fill in a few variables. So we want to go ahead and say we're going to wait our wait time, and we're going to change x by x steps. We're going to repeat our inner loop so many times and our outer loop so many times. Okay. Now if we run that right now, notice that our convertible will move without our puff of smoke. Okay, and we'll stop that. And then we just need to go over to our smoke sprite. Okay, he's positioned where we want. So we did our inner loop, or outer loop, and then our inner loop. We also want to get the starting position. So we will want our go-to. And then again, we'll want our starting position after we run through the inner loop. Okay. And then the car doesn't change, but notice that we have the multiple sprites, or the multiple costumes, I mean. So in the looks, we're also going to want to say, every time we repeat, we're going to change to the next costume, and then we're also going to do, under motion, we're going to change our X as well for the smoke. Okay, so all we have to do now is we'll go to our variables, and we'll put in, there's our inner loop variable, there's our outer loop variable, okay, and then our X steps variable. Okay, so if we press the space bar on the smoke, notice there the smoke's going. Okay, now to put them together, all we need to do is press the space bar, not click on one piece of code or the other, because that just runs for the one sprite. So when I click the space bar, and we definitely have something that's not working right. So we'll jump over and, okay, what didn't we do? Well, if we look at our weight, we have our weight there, but back on our smoke, we didn't have the weight, so the smoke was going really fast and the car wasn't. So let's go ahead back to our control, and we put our weight, we'll drag our weight over inside of our loop there. Okay, and again, the key here is you want to make sure everything's synchronized between all of your graphics, all of your sprites. If they're not, then you know, hey, I've got to figure out what's not synced up and make the adjustment. Okay, and notice now our car is moving. It's going left to right. And again, if you want it to appear off the screen, you can use different starting positions. Okay, so now the other thing we can do is we can make it look like as the car is moving, each time it goes off the screen and comes back on to the screen, we can have it go a little faster each time. And so to do that, we created the wait time variable. So what I can do is I'm going to change the wait time. Okay, and I'm going to change it by -0.03. I want just a small amount for it to change each time through the loop. Okay, and then again, I don't want to click to start it because that'll just do one, so I'm going to press the space bar on the keyboard. And we'll see, if we look at our wait time, Notice how it's getting lower, smaller each time, so it goes faster each time. And again, you can adjust your positioning to make it go further across the screen or back, and kind of get the desired value there. One thing that we haven't looked at yet, there is an option also, and there's a button that says full screen, so you can go full screen or not, so that when you're looking at your animation, you can display it full screen and you don't see the code and that sort of thing. Okay. And again, we're not going very far across the screen, so what you can do is play around with the start values, play around with your X steps and the number of times you do your loops to get him to go further across the screen. So feel free to add even more than 2 sprites and try a lot of things. See the description at the bottom for some activities you can do. Try some more and enjoy your time coding in Scratch.